Hello. Hi, I'm Nick.
Hello, Mr. Nick. My name is Khadija, and I'm from Copeland Community School. Can you tell me in one sentence what the liberal democracy stands for?
A world where people are freer, where you can get ahead and make a success of your life irrespective of the circumstances of your birth, where we work with other countries to make the world a safer and more peaceful place, and where we look after the environment for future generations.
I'm Maisie from Ribblesdale School. You promised that university fees would be abolished. Do you feel that you could have done more to stop the rise to £9,000?
It was a terribly difficult decision. Of course it was. I think two things, really. Firstly, I'm a leader of a party which has 8% of MPs in Westminster, so I'm flattered when people think that I can act as if I'm the Prime Minister. I'm not the Prime Minister. Not enough people voted for my party to be Prime Minister, so we had to make compromises. And the compromise which we arrived at, and that's what happens when you get coalition, and both the Conservative and Labour parties wanted to see fees go up, is that yes, fees have gone up, but how you repay has gone down. So when the system works, I hope people will see that you won't pay anything at university, not a single penny, for the first time ever, because lots of people pay for fees now at university. And secondly, what you pay out of your bank account every week and every month, because of the way we've organised it, is actually less than it is now. So I know it might sound a bit odd. How can the price tag go up, but what you repay actually goes down? But that's actually what will happen. So I hope, as it works, people will see that it's a much fairer system than people fear it will be.
Hi, I'm Vanjie from Bannockburn in Scotland. Why do EU students get free university tuition, but English students do not?
Well, that's because in Scotland, as you know, there's an offer to EU students which doesn't apply to English students. We have a different higher education system in Scotland and in England, and indeed in England and in Wales. And I think what we all are trying to sort of balance up is if you go to university, on the whole, right, you tend to benefit a lot later in life because you tend to be able to get better jobs and better paid jobs, right? So what we're saying is when you earn enough, not at any time, but when you earn enough, you can start, you should start making some contributions for having had the good luck, the good fortune of going to university, but only when you can afford to do so. You've got to remember at the moment, it's very important to remember this for students in England, the moment you earn £15,000, you have to start repaying fees. In the future system, that'll go up to 21,000. So if you earn 18, 19, 20, you won't pay a penny in future.
Hi Nick, I'm Chris from Clegg College. Many people in Northern Ireland, including myself, feel that they have little to no benefit from the Olympics and that funding health and education should take priority over such a luxury event. What stance do you take on this opinion?
I don't agree with that. I think it's a really, really great thing for our country to be hosting this, this huge world event. The whole eyes of the sort of world will be on us. And if we pull it off successfully, I actually think the long-term benefits for the economy and for jobs and for wealth in our own country are actually increased, because I think it'll encourage people to invest here. We're obviously going to get lots and lots of people visiting primarily London, but not exclusively London this summer. And I think the more we kind of show to the outside world that we're a great place to visit, we're a great place to live, we're a great place to work, that helps us all in the long run.
But do you think that people in Northern Ireland will benefit from this tourism and investment, even though it's not on the mainland? Well,
you could say the same thing. I'm an MP in Sheffield. I suppose you could say the same thing about any other part of the country that's not, right next to or, near the Olympic Village in London. I think having a successful Olympics in one part of the country does have a positive knock-on effect to all other parts of the country, including Northern Ireland, because I think if we get it right, which I very much hope we will, it'll really kind of lift the possibility for us to get more people to invest in this country, to create more jobs in this country, throughout the country.
My school's an awful place, and the cracks in the walls are covered by paper. We thought that we were going to get money from the government. What are you willing to do about our school and about many others?
There's two things about money into schools. Firstly, there's how you put money to you, the pupils, and then there's how do you put money to rebuilding things, the roofs, the walls, and so on and so forth. And what we've done is we're dramatically increasing the amount of money through something called the pupil premium that will particularly go to children who come from less lucky backgrounds. So, by the end of this Parliament, there'll be about £2.5 billion of extra money will go to make sure that teachers can really help and support through one-to-one tuition, catch-up classes, Saturday morning school. I'm losing you, aren't I? You don't want to do Saturday morning school, but it could be a good thing for you through this pupil premium. And then there's a different pot of money, which is for the physical stuff, the cracks in the walls and so on and so forth. And there we had a real problem, which was that what we'd inherited was a pot of money called Building Schools for the Future that was incredibly wasteful, unbelievably wasteful. So, all of us were spending lots of money on this thing called Building Schools for the Future, which wasn't helping schools nearly as well as it should have done. So we've changed it around. There's still a lot of money, millions, in fact billions of pounds going into rebuilding schools and so on. But it has been reorganised. It has meant that some schools that might have benefited from the old pot of money are having to kind of reapply for new pots of money. That's very controversial. But in the long run, I hope what we'll end up doing is making sure that we are not only investing in you as a person, but also investing in a sensible way in the kind of physical surroundings in which you're educated.
Hi Nick, I'm Lamaise and I'm from St Tyler's High School, which is in Cardiff. While you've been in the government, the number of unemployed youth has grown massively. I'm worried about my future when it comes to finding a job. What are you going to do to help people like me in the future?
Very good question. It has increased youth unemployment recently. It's around 1 million now. About 300,000 of that is sort of students who move in and out of work. But still, whatever the figure, it's increasing, which is bad. Do you know that the terribly difficult thing which we have to confront is that actually youth unemployment has been going up pretty remorselessly, even in the good times. It's been going up pretty steadily since 2004. So we have a big issue, which is that employers seem, for one reason or another, to maybe favour other workers rather than young workers, and that was happening even when there was pots of money and the economy was going better. What are we doing about it? This is something I've driven through government. I announced back in November that from next month, so you don't have to wait very long, just a few weeks' time, something called the youth contract which will start, which will mean that every 18 to 24-year-old in the country who's out of work will have the opportunity to either take up an apprenticeship or take up a place on a work experience scheme or go to an employer who will be given a bit of money, half the basic wage, by the government to employ that young person. And we think that should benefit close to 500,000 young people in the coming months. Because I couldn't agree with you more. If you're young and you're sitting at home, you've left school or college or university, you're trying to find work, you're sending out endless job applications, often you don't get an answer. You feel cut off, you feel lonely, you get down, it kind of knocks the stuffing out of you exactly at the time when you should be most optimistic and hopeful in life. And that's why this youth contract, which is £1 billion, a lot of money in total, is every 18 to 24-year-old, without work, from next month, will be able to take up either training, apprenticeships, learning or jobs.
I'm Harry from Corby Business Academy, and same as Lamaise, I am worried about finding a job, but I'm worried because of more and more immigrants, despite the government's plans to cut down numbers. What are you going to do to solve this problem?
What we're doing is we're sort of tightening the system, so people who want to come and work here and have got good qualifications and want to make a contribution and want to pay their taxes can come here, because, you don't just create more jobs for you by just putting up the drawbridge, because it actually helps create more jobs if you get good people coming into our country who in turn create more jobs themselves. But of course what we're doing is stopping people who either have come here, for instance, to study, but then have stayed on when they actually should have gone back home, which has been a big problem. So we're really trying to address that. And also we are stopping people who either coming here illegally, of course, so we're checking what happens at our borders, counting people in and counting people out, which, could you believe it, didn't used to be the case. We simply didn't know who was coming in and out of the country. And we're also saying to people from far off places outside the European Union, look, if you're going to come here with no qualifications and you haven't got much to offer, we're going to make it, we're going to ask you much, much tougher questions.
I'm Jennifer from Bannockburn High School. When you're thinking about Scottish independence, how many questions would you like to see on the ballot paper? Just one, yes or no. I think it's a huge question, but it's in a sense a simple question. Do the people of Scotland believe that Scotland should pull out of the United Kingdom or not? The SNP have got a clear democratic mandate from the last Scottish elections to put that question to people. But I think if you start mixing it up with lots of just a multiple choice list of different questions, what happens if they all say yes to the same, to 2 or 3 different questions? It creates a huge amount of confusion. I personally, of course, very much hope that Scotland will stay part of the United Kingdom, because I think
I think we're just stronger together and we're weaker apart. There's a huge amount of uncertainty in the world at the moment. You know, you've got everything from international terrorism to environmental problems which cross borders. You've got these terrible problems in our banking system, which is all bound up with the way that the international economy works. I just think, in general, you sort those kind of problems out better if you work together, even though Scotland, of course, could over time take on more powers and more freedom, if you like, within the United Kingdom, but nonetheless being part of a family of nations that I think works well for all of us.
I'm Danny from Copeland School, and I live in Brent, and instead of young children joining youth clubs where they can get one-to-one support, I believe they're joining gangs. What are you yourself doing to help stop this and help support the children who are going into gangs?
I think the most important lesson I've learned, having spoken to a lot of people about this, is you can't kind of do something by just making some declaration here in Whitehall or Westminster. You've got to get into the communities, into the families, into the schools, and to provide young boys in particular with alternatives. I mean, there was a brilliant project some years ago on the south side of the river here in London, where some ex-gang members just started literally organising football games between different gangs, and before you knew it, the whole kind of gang violence subsided. So I think we just need to give people alternatives. I think if there is a sense of hopelessness about work, if there's a sense of hopelessness about being able to sort of take on new qualifications, I think then of course the temptation is to resort to becoming a member of a gang, and that's why giving people a sense of purpose and hope with extra jobs, with getting the economy going, is probably in the long run the most important thing of all.
But what are you actually doing to stop them joining this? L'Emploi just the other day was shut down, and connections are being shut down as well, which is stopping young people from getting into jobs and not giving them enough one-to-one support where they can talk to other people who may be ex-gang members about their future.
Well, to be fair, there's lots of other projects which have actually been started, and there's been lots of extra money put into other projects which seem to work in stopping young boys becoming gang members. And the point I was making earlier about this extra money through the pupil premium into schools is precisely that it'll give schools more resources to really deal with the individual issues that young boys and girls from more disadvantaged backgrounds face at school. So you're right, what we are saying is kind of like we're putting the onus a bit more on the schools than for instance, through the Connections service.
Hi, I'm Poppy from Ribblesdale School. My mum's a nurse and she's concerned about the changes in the NHS, and so am I. Why are you making the changes that the doctors and nurses don't agree with?
I think we have a problem. I think what people have lost is they sort of think, well, why are you doing this NHS bill? It's an answer to what kind of problem? So I think we need to start with the problem. The problem is, as your mum will, confirm better than I can, is that we've got an increasing number of older people in the country, right? Ageing population. And they're having illnesses and sicknesses which last much longer, and they're ending up in hospital for a longer and longer period of time. So we're hospitalising people on a larger and larger scale, right? Rather than keeping them healthy and strong in their own homes. And at the same time, of course, the cost of medicine is spiralling up. So this is all about trying to make sure that as a society, we don't simply just put more and more, particularly older people, into hospitals for a long period of time. It doesn't make them better, it's very, very expensive, it's not sustainable. So all we are doing in this legislation, despite all the controversy, is simply saying that the people who know the patients best, your mum, the nurses, the doctors and others, who see the patients when they first start developing problems, have a greater say about what happens to those patients, so they're not immediately shunted off into hospital. That's literally the whole point of this legislation. And I know it's controversial because everyone cherishes and loves the NHS, and everybody's very worried that any change will somehow undo the NHS. If I thought that this legislation would privatise the NHS or destroy the NHS, I'd have stopped it months ago. I genuinely think trying to keep people healthier in their homes and their communities, rather than having an increasingly large number of people languishing in hospital for a long time, by giving doctors and nurses and others greater say about what happens to us patients, is a good thing.
Hi Nick, I'm Keelan from Lagan College. How far would you agree it's unfair for one man to have so much power over the media, and therefore do you think more regulations need to be put in place to maintain impartiality and allow young people to make up their own minds?
I think we've had these huge scandals in our media, which I think has really shocked a lot of people, and all these kind of revelations that we're now hearing about the relationship between politicians and media moguls, the relationship between the media and the police. It's really, I think it's really shaken people, because of course what you want is a lively media which keeps people like me on my, my toes, and is very tough on politicians, but is kind of independent, and where you've got lots of different bits of the media kind of competing with each other. That's what I think we all want, is a free, independent, vigorous, diverse media. And that's what this Leveson inquiry is all about. That's why we set it up. And we said, look, just look at it all. Look at all the problems, and then come to us, the government that is, with any recommendations you've got about how we can make sure that you have no more sort of industrial scale wrongdoing and criminality in the media, but also that we have got a healthy, independent, diverse media.
I'm Sophie from St Tyler's High School. In 5 years' time, I will be paying a tax. Why should I have to pay such a high tax for a debt that I'm not responsible for?
It's incredibly frustrating. All of us, the whole of British society, are dealing with the consequences of this huge kind of heart attack at the centre of our economy back in 2008, which we weren't responsible for. And it's very, very serious, and it is going to take many years to kind of get out of this. The banking system is a bit like a kind of heart that pumps blood around the economic system, and it just seized up. And that's why we're having to do all this repair job to our economy at the moment. That's why we're having to cut public spending, which is incredibly controversial. At the same time, however, we are trying to make the tax system fairer, so that particularly people on low and middle incomes pay less tax. So, for instance, my great kind of ambition is to make sure that the point at which you start paying tax gets higher and higher. I want us to live in a country where the first £10,000 you earn completely free of tax. We've already taken over 1 million people on low pay we've taken them out of paying any income tax altogether, and I want to increase that further, because if the tax system isn't seen to be fair for people who are really struggling to make ends meet, I think that will make that's not good, and that's why raising this, what they call the personal allowance, is a really important thing.
Hi Nick, I'm Will from Corby Business Academy. I live in Northamptonshire, and our council's budget has recently been cut by £70 million due to the debt of the central government. This has led to a streetlight cut in our county, causing pedestrians in our county to feel unsafe, and it only saves £2 million. Why is that £2 million the price of our safety?
It's very difficult for me. It's Will, was it? Yeah. Sorry, it's very difficult for me to know without knowing why the county council took the decision and so on. But I'm very happy to sort of look into it. You're right. You've got this sort of cascade effect, right? So the banks blew up. Yeah. We as a country have been spending far, far too much money for many, many years, which we couldn't really afford. Lots and lots of people were taking out lots of debts, mortgage debts, credit card debts. So you had three problems, didn't you? The banks, which blew up. The government didn't have any money because it spent so much money. As we were told when we came into power, there's no money left. And lots of households, and just all of us, had spent too much money ourselves and had big mortgage payments to pay, and credit cards, bills to pay off, and so on and so forth. And what we're doing as a country is we're having to kind of rewind or unwind all of that and make sure that our household budgets work and that we fill the black hole in the public finances. And yes, that does have an effect. You're quite right on local authority. And we're trying to make sure it's spread as kind of evenly as possible so that everybody plays their part, and that where they take decisions, they are as much about things like, bureaucracy and administration and other things where you can make savings, and not the kind of frontline things which, as your question implies, of course people really care about.
Does your mum still tell you what to do?
Oh, you bet. And she's learned to email, so if she doesn't leave me a message telling me what to do, she sends me an email. So the instruction always comes through.
How long does it take you in the morning to get ready?
I'm not. Well, I've got 3 little kids, so they get us up very early. They're our 3-year-old at the moment, so we're waking up at sort of 5:30. Perhaps because I'm so bleary-eyed, I'm perhaps not quite as quick as I should be.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. Not bleary-eyed today, and we're very grateful to you for
Thanks
your
very much.
time.
Good to see you. Good luck. See you soon.